Diary. Hello, it is Tuesday, the 31st of October. I'm in the study with my very, very lazy but beautiful companion who is going to help me go through the latest Apple announcements. So I've titled the article on the WordPress all about the 2023 M3 Apple MacBook Pros. Now, Apple had an announcement which I did in fact stay up for. It was billed as being on the 23:59, as in 1 minute to midnight, on Monday, October the 30th. So I set the alarm, but I was so excited I couldn't go to sleep, and I was sitting here when the alarm went off. And in a very short 30-minute presentation, Apple announced principally new laptops and a whole new line of CPU chips. So the excitement is that I'm going to go through this article and show you why you should listen to what I've said, what I'm about to say, and perhaps take a look at the videos of the original announcement. So the first thing to say is that if you're not interested in Apple hardware or MacBooks or iMacs, then you can stop right now. The announcement that happened basically announced two new lines of computers or upgrades. That will be the MacBook Pro laptops, which is a higher end of Apple laptops, and the Apple iMac. So if neither of those interest you, again, stop. Obviously, this is not a whinge, just a fact. I don't get any free stuff from Apple. I don't get any free machines. Don't get any review copies. I don't have to impress any publishers, which a lot of big YouTubers now do have. So they're unlikely to tell you the nitty gritty. If you want to look at the original presentation, it's a 30-minute presentation only from Apple. As usual, companies like The Verge have done 10-minute cuts of that presentation. So if you really have only 10 minutes to look, then choose those. But I would suggest to go for the full 30 minutes. The management summary is Apple announced M3 CPU chips, and they are roughly about 20% faster than the outgoing M2 generation. And in some places, they are not so much faster at all. The biggest gains are in the graphical processing unit, the GPU side. However, there's some major caveats, but we'll come on to that because I put that in the article. If we look at power efficiency, well, throughout the 30-minute presentation, Apple had a number of laughable charts. And I want to say laughable. Although they do include axes with actual numbers on them, the stuff that is as in the graph is very vague. So here's an example. We've got M1 CPU performance against M3, and we're saying, oh, that is better than that. Now, I would say they didn't compare M3, the generation they announced, with M2, which is the outgoing generation. They only showed against the M1, the 2-year-old generation. And of course, it's going to be better. But if they compared it against the M2, you'd see that the M2 line is, very close to the M3 line. So that was disappointing. But to Apple's credit, if we look at this horizontal axis, this is the power. I've cut off the fact that this is the power in watts. Now the power in watts, this is 25 watts, this is 20 watts, this is 15 watts. I've gone to an official Intel handout for their Xeon W2400 processors, which is a 2023 processor range. The minimum power here is 120 watts, and it's going up to 225 watts for a single CPU chip. And the Apple processors here are 15 watts. So Apple has really stormed into the marketplace and continues to do so, because for a laptop, every watt counts. And so in the laptop arena, Apple has now got no serious competition from Intel whatsoever. It's impossible to show you an Intel laptop which can compete with any kind of Apple laptop. And Apple knows this, which is why the announcement that they showed you has very powerful laptops. But in the server space or in the machine room, where we don't really care, well, we care, but we don't care as much about the critical watt difference. It's more of a so what. Nevertheless, it's nice to buy an Apple computer and realise that your computer is, let's say, taking 100 watts less than something else. But imagine you driving your car with a 200 kilowatts, a 200,000 watt motor. So a 200,000 watt motor, and we're talking about saving of 200 watts here, or 100 watts. So, get your numbers into perspective. The next thing on the line is that colours. They've announced for the new laptops a black colour. Now you can't get the black colour on the entry-level MacBook Pro. So the entry-level MacBook Pro comes with an M3 CPU. Then you can go to the M3 Pro CPU or M3 Max CPU. So if you're too poor to buy the M3 Pro CPU or the M3 Max CPU, you do not get the black colour. So if you did select and buy one of the higher echelon MacBook Pros purely for the colour, you are a complete and utter dumb ass. And I've said this about phone colours as well, because manufacturers of phones tend to release new colours at the 6-month point of a 12-month cycle. And who do you know who buys a new phone or a new laptop just because as a new colours come out? I'd love you to introduce me to such a person. Anyway, there's a new black colour. To me, it's a so what. I would cover. I have a laptop here. Hang on, let me just do a quick demo. Here is an Apple laptop. It's got a skin, a lovely skin, and so I don't care what colour the laptop comes in. Okay. So the next thing I'll talk about is the increase in GPU power. So we've seen a chart in the presentation which says that, again, it's a vague chart. We've got M3 family is up to 1.8 times faster than M2 family. So are they comparing the fastest M3 with the slowest M2? I don't know, because they haven't told us. To me, it's a bit of a so what. The GPU rendering is used for what purpose? It would be used if you were playing a game. How many Apple users use their computers for gaming? Very, very few. Now, Apple wants to change that, and they're certainly showing impressive hardware capabilities. But right now, gamers have either got dedicated gaming systems or they use Intel PCs. And the Apple percent, I don't know what the Apple percentage is, but it's teeny. So forget that. So who else might make use of this GPU acceleration? Well, creative professionals, big time YouTubers, people who are doing video editing. But again, if you are ordering your shopping from a UK supermarket like Tesco or Ocado, is the GPU acceleration going to help you? No, it's going to give you 0.00 seconds enhancement over your existing computer system, be it an Apple computer or other. So do not think that the GPU acceleration is going to benefit the many. It will benefit the very, very, very few. And even I have got over 1,000 YouTube videos online. For me, my current Apple setup, it can export a 4 or 5 gigabyte video in a minute. And so if I go for a coffee and come back again, it's done it. And so how much faster do I want this? If the new machine was twice as fast, then I'd be saving 30 seconds. So to me, it's not a big thing. If you're a real, video editing professional with multiple streams of content and multiple lines, it might make some difference. But again, there's a very, very few people. Anyway, let's get on with some of the headline figures. So these are the timestamps for the original presentation. So on the original presentation, they have these nice summary charts where you can see what you're getting for your money. And there's an up to chart, because everything now is an up to, because the laptops are so powerful that you start off with a base configuration and you can have you can have up to 8 terabytes, you can have up to 128 gigabytes of memory in some cases, but the cost of doing so is absolutely phenomenal. So if you're buying a laptop and you're only wishing to spend in the UK, let's say £2,000, which is still quite a lot of money, but if you limit your budget to £2,000, then none of these big numbers are going to be shown in your laptop specification. Well, apart from the 22 hours of battery life. You're not going to get a 16-core GPU. You're not going to get a 16-core CPU. You will not be getting a 40-core GPU. And you definitely will not be getting 128 gigabytes of memory. So if you specified all of these things, I dare say the price in pounds would be something like 4,000 or higher pounds. I will say there's a very good web link on the website. So if you go into the article, you'll see that there's a link. Let me see if I've got it up on the screen here. The screen's, so it's gone to sleep. Yeah, here's the web page. So you can go into this web page, UK Mac Compare, and you can select 3 different types, and then you can actually go through the advantages comparatively with each other. So I've currently got an M2 MacBook Air, and so I was thinking, oh, if I was to upgrade to an M3 Pro, what would I get for my money? And the answer is, down here. But again, we are living in up to land, because again, these are the up to numbers, and up to 24 gigabytes of memory, up to this. So, I mean, this is the base M3, and this is the M3 Pro. So if we just change that to the so this would be the 4. So if I was to compare the 14 inches and the 13-inch M2, you'll see that I could have a 10-core GPU or up to a 40-core GPU, but of course, they're 2 completely different price points. So it's a very useful web page, though. It can show you what you may currently have and what you could have and what the differences could be, and that is quite useful here when you're talking about the number of CPU cores, whether you get a number of ports, etc. So that is very useful. Talked about up to land. I've got a chart here about the number of cores. As you can see, it's not always good news. If you were to move from an M2 Pro to an M3 Pro, you've actually got 8 performance and 4 efficiency cores, and instead in the new machine you've got 6 performance and 6 economy cores. So for me, that's not a good move. Talk about a few other things. One thing I did notice is the 13-inch line has been deleted. So there's no MacBook Pro 13-inch anymore. So you've got MacBook Air, you've got MacBook Pro, and the Pros are 14 or 16 inches. And I did notice at the base entry level of MacBook Pro, so that's the 14-inch M3 version, I don't think it's a typographical error, but it appears you've got one less hardware port here, because the M3 Pro and M3 Max have got 2 USB-Cs on one side and 1 on the other side. But it says here Thunderbolt / USB 4. It doesn't say Thunderbolt 4 / USB 4. I can only assume these are Thunderbolt 3 ports. In other words, the base entry level MacBook Pro, the M3 CPU'd version, it would appear does not have Thunderbolt 4. I mean, it sort of says that here, but it doesn't exactly. So I think it's got Thunderbolt 3 only. So if Thunderbolt 4 is important to you, you have to actually select a MacBook Pro with the higher end CPUs. So it's a very important point. So I've noticed that the displays on the MacBook Pros are brighter than on the MacBook Air. I've also noticed that they've said in the announcement that the screen is slightly brighter than the old MacBook Pros. But if you squirrel around on the interweb, you'll find out that companies like Vivid sell a utility which boosts the brightness of the old MacBook Pros. I mean, the now old, they weren't old a few days ago. And so I think that the brighter display that Apple quotes is just a software thing. And I can believe that if you have an existing MacBook Pro and use the Vivid utility, you'll have the same brightness as the new MacBook Pros. Not positive, but I'd take a gamble on that. I'd take a bet on that. In terms of sizes, the sizes are very, very, very competitive and just marvellous. However, they're not as light or as svelte as a MacBook Air. So as an Air owner, I'm thinking, is there any reason why I would go to the MacBook Pro? And the Pro is just heavier. It's just bigger and heavier. Now, whilst the larger screen is important, it's a lot heavier. I mean, these are only grams, but if you're carrying a laptop around all day, those grams do start to matter. So once again, if I was trying to recommend what somebody would buy, and they're not doing a lot of video editing, and if they are doing a lot of video editing, why haven't they got their own desktop system? Then again, the MacBook Air seems to be a lower priced, more reasonable machine. I've got some other charts here. I've got the speakers. Obviously, the MacBook Pros have got 6-speaker sound systems, which is better than the MacBook Air. The MacBook Pros come with a full-size HDMI socket, so you can easily plug in an external screen. There's quite a lot of differences in support between the different systems. So here's the display situation for the different machines. You can read that in the article, but to be really frank, I don't really know of anyone who uses their portable MacBook and then goes to a site and says, I need to plug in 3 screens. They need to plug in 1 screen. Again, if you're a creative professional, you get home with your MacBook Pro, you've probably got a different system, a desktop system which you're using with big screens. I don't know of many people who only have a MacBook Pro or a laptop, and they come home with that laptop and they use that for their editing suite. I think that's unusual. So it can attach more than one display, but is that useful to you? And I think that's pretty much it. Size of related. One more thing. So they did announce iMac, an upgrade to the iMac. So the iMac, as you probably know, is the Apple sort of entry-level, all-in-one system. And I've just got a few words of caution about this, which is that they sell 2 different machines. They sell a cheaper version and a more expensive version. And with the more expensive version, you get the better keyboard with Touch ID. So that's a keyboard like this. Hang on. So this is the latest Apple keyboard, and you see there's the fingerprint reader here. Now I think that's going to be very important in the future because at the moment you use that Touch ID to log you into the Mac. But in the future, websites are moving from passwords to passkeys. And the way that passkeys work is that you say to the Mac who you are, or to the website who you are, using some sort of biometric logon, and the Touch ID sensor is the way to do that. So in the future, to future-proof yourself, I would definitely get if you're buying an iMac, you're going to get one, please, with a Touch ID keyboard. Otherwise, it's going to be a right pain. So that's what you get if you choose the more expensive one. So nobody look at this system, erase it from your memories, go for the more expensive one where you get a Magic Keyboard with Touch ID. Oh yeah, and the last hilarious thing was Comedy Gold, as I've said in the article. The companion mouse and the companion keyboard to the iMac is still Lightning. So Apple is transitioning from Lightning connector to USB-C. And one might have thought with a brand new iMac, they would announce a new keyboard with a USB socket here, not a Lightning connector. And they would introduce a new mouse with a USB-C socket, not a Lightning connector. And they did not do that. So that's quite funny in the tech world. You're going to get a cable which plug into your keyboard to charge it, but it is quite funny that they haven't done that. So that's it. That's the update. Overall, these new machines are fantastic. If you are that exceptional power user, if you are that video editor that really needs the extra power that these laptops can bring, which is absolutely phenomenal. Don't get me wrong, it's incredible. It's off the scale compared with Intel laptops. But the question is, compared with the existing laptop range, or compared with something like a MacBook Air, which is thinner and lighter, and just does everything that most people need it to do. If you're just surfing the web, then buying a £2,000 or £4,000 laptop will not make your online shopping order any faster. That's it for now, Dari. Thank you for watching.